Hello, magical people of the internet. I am Jen, and welcome to my vlog, I Never Thought I Would, where we talk about doing things we never thought we would do and the fabulous places that they can lead us. Today, I have a very special guest, Nita Marquez. She is a peak performance and stress management coach. She is the founder of the Champion System. She is also a U.S. National Fitness Champion and an author and a single mom of three. Nita, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Miss Jen.
So I would love to hear you talk about doing something you never thought you would do. I've known you for a few years now, and you never cease to amaze me. You are such an incredibly impressive achiever. So I would love for you to pick one of the things that you never thought you would do. I know you've done several. And let us know where it led you and how it led you to a breakthrough or a success or a pivot in your life where you never thought you would go.
Wow. That was a great earful. Even I had to listen really hard. I'm like, wait, who is she talking about? What? I know it's a bit to tumble over. It would appear to many people that I've been all over the board. I would say that I never thought, being a girl who was on my own at 13, my mother was a crack and heroin addict. I did not know my father at that time. I never, ever thought that I would become any kind of champion of anything. I really didn't. It was not in the cards for me. I was told by administrators at schools, I was told by just general people in my mother's life, basically that I wasn't shit, in so many words. I really never thought that I was going to go anywhere, but there was a part of me that just always knew that I would share my story. And that I never really thought that I would do anything necessarily magical with, but I just knew that I was supposed to do that. So I knew it was my job to survive. And that's what I knew that I would do always. And so I never thought that I would become a champion of anything. So when I ended up getting on the fitness stage and competing and just ended up with the tenacity that I had developed in my spirit, becoming somebody with such a fabulous, I had the greatest fitness coach in Arizona, probably on the West Coast, as my coach for 13 years. His company sponsored me. I had almost a 20-year stretch in the fitness industry as an amateur, then a professional. And, given the coaching structure, his faith in me, the many pep talks, the many times I wanted to give up and he wouldn't let me, I get choked up at that. I never thought that it would turn into something as big as it did. And to have not gone on, I could have gone on in my career and, done more, but I just felt like when it was time, I just felt it in my heart, it was time to leave. I had already won the national championships. I'd won 2 regional runner-up positions in my field. I had won 2 state titles. And I had done 35 shows over the course of my career, and I had showed pretty much at almost all of them in the top 5 at almost every one. And some of those were international. And to have competed with some of the most beautiful and powerful bodies on the stage in the world, and to have shown that well, I never thought, if you would have told me when I was 13, I never would have thought in a million years that it was possible.
How old were you when you began fitness competitions? And how did you get into the fitness world? Because I'm assuming you probably were in the fitness world a little bit before you decided, oh, hey, this is something I want to compete at.
Right. I definitely was at it for a minute, literally kind of a minute before I decided I was going to compete in it. I was training with a trainer. I met my husband, and my husband was always showing me this model. I actually was just showing her picture to someone the other day. And I went on to meet this model and ended up being featured in a pictorial, a coffee table book with this model. Her name is Tina Jo Bange. she was my inspiration to get into the sport. My husband always told me, before he was my husband, he always looked at these fitness magazines, and I was training with a trainer. He's like, girl, that's you. That's your body. That's your body. And I just thought, no way. There's no way. Like, I would never look like that. I don't look like that. And he'll go, no, you look just like her. And it just ended up lighting a fire up under my ass. I had been thinking about competing because my personal trainer at that time, who wasn't sponsoring me, I was paying for him, but he had told me, yeah, if you wanted to compete, you could totally do it. And so it kind of planted a seed, and then it kind of lit a fire up under me. And when my ex-husband compared me to somebody, I thought, wow, really? I could be like that? That was like, oh, I don't know, maybe. I mean, I can try it. My trainer thinks that I can, and my husband thinks I can. So I just went in that direction. And then about 2 months later, I found out I was pregnant. That was interesting. So at that time, we weren't married yet. And I think I was maybe 21 then. And I was 22, 23 when my daughter was born. And when she was born, I had already had it in my mind that I was going to compete. So then my husband was my trainer after that. And 5 months later, I was stepping foot onto a fitness stage.
Wow, 5 months after giving birth to your first child. That's incredible.
Yeah. So, I mean, because I had been training up to that point, you know, they don't tell you this in the real world. They tell you, oh, your body's going to fall apart. Like, I'm not going to say her name because I'm not going to throw her under the bus, but there's a famous personal trainer who said, oh, I would never have kids because I don't want to give birth because my body will fall apart and I don't want to lose my body. First of all, it's fucking vain. Second of all, no, it doesn't. And third of all, I did it 3 times. And I feel like after every baby, I got in better and better condition. I felt like the muscles that I had internally and externally were more receptive. I was aging with each baby, so I was gaining more muscle maturity. I think my mind was in a different space and I evolved with every child. And I think your brain chemistry has a lot to do with what your body's capable of. And I felt like a fucking powerhouse after every kid. So it didn't happen for me that it was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? After I have a baby, I don't know if I'm going to, I was like, it was never a thought in my mind that I could ever not compete after I had my baby. I was like, okay, well, I'm going to compete. First, I'm going to have this baby and then I'm going to compete. And that was that. So,
yeah, you just kind of resolved that that was the plan. That's what you were going to do, and you stuck to it. And isn't it funny how when we decide that we are going to do something and we are in the mindset to go forward, our mind kind of dictates how our body is going to respond and even how the universe around us is going to respond.
yep, it's so true. It's so true. Um, you know, I think that if I learned anything being on my own at 13, you know, I had a real low self-esteem. I did not think a lot of myself, but if I learned anything, I learned that if you just promise yourself, then you will. And how I learned that was I promised myself I would survive, and I did. And I was faced with some really deadly situations, literally physically deadly situations during those years. Like I said, my mom was a crack and heroin addict. You can imagine I didn't always draw to the safest or most healthy situations.
Mm-hmm.
At 17, I remember I was a dropout and I wanted to go back to school because I was a Denny's waitress and I was on the graveyard shift and I was watching this infomercial and it was Tony Robbins selling this book, Unlimited Personal Power. So I hurried up and I was like, oh my God, I was so amped. And I called 1-800, whatever it was on the infomercial. And I ordered it and I was like, I don't know, I have the money for this. I don't know what it's about, but I love it. And I just felt so good to hear him saying those things. And I had read The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale when I was like 14 or something. And I remember it just resonated for me, what Tony was saying with what I had learned from Norman Vincent Peale. And I thought, oh my God, this is like that one book that I read. And so it just stuck in my head that I could do anything. And the next year I wanted to go back to school. I said, I'm going to go back to school. And so after I finished reading the book, I went I remember I was super amped about life, and I went to the high school, the local high school that would have been my high school that I dropped out of. And I went to the high school counselor to talk to her about going back to school. And she was like, um, given your situation, I think it's better if you just focus on getting your GED so you can support yourself. And I remember like looking at her puzzled, like, I thought I was coming here for help, and she's telling me that I can't. So, as I've said many times before, I am fucking notorious for not listening to anybody. If I have something in my head, I don't fucking listen to anybody. And people hate that about me sometimes because it would appear as though I'm not a team player. Well, if you're a shitty leader, no, I'm not a team player. I'm sorry. And she just was a shitty leader. We have people like that running our high schools. That's unfortunate. And I went back to school the next year. I went to day school and night school all year. I graduated on my 18th birthday, and I got a full academic scholarship to the University of Arizona, which at the time was one of the most prestigious schools in the country. Don't listen to anybody that tells you you can't.
After hearing your story about how you became this national fitness champion, it's not a surprise to me that you pivoted into becoming a peak performance and stress management coach, because that was totally ingrained in your fitness training, dealing with stress and learning how to get the peak performance out of yourself, and by osmosis, kind of learning how to get it out of the people around you. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
I would say that it was partly my fitness career that lent to it, but I really think going back to being a teenager on my own so young, I think that inner resolve, it always had something driving me to survive and just overcome, because I just knew that one day I had to tell other people that I did or I didn't. And I always used to say, I remember saying, I can either make excuses or I can make the way. But when I go to my grave, I don't want to be listening to my fucking excuses. I remember saying that to myself, like as a young girl, like 14, 15 years old, like, I don't give a fuck what's happened to me. Like, I am not going to use this as a crutch. There were a lot of times that sure, it was a crutch, and I stumbled a lot. I skinned my knees emotionally a million times, and I bruised myself and banged my head a million times to them. A fuck up like everybody else. And I was determined because I knew that I would have to tell other people if I was or I wasn't, or at least I had to live with that when I went to my grave. And I think that is part of what helps me drive the tenacity from underneath my clients in certain areas. And it's interesting. I had a session today, as we were talking before the podcast. I told you I had a great breakthrough with one of my clients, and I've been working with her for about 2.5 months. And she's like, you know what I love? She goes, I'm such a badass. She is a badass with business. I mean, she's a bad motherfucker. She's so financially abundant. She's beautiful. I mean, it would appear that she has everything under the sun. And she carries herself like she does. She's like a fucking boss. She's a queen. But she goes, I can't believe that in this time that we've worked together that you've helped me to conquer my fears when it came to believing that I could do more for my health and my body. She goes, I don't know where all these blocks were all this time. And now she's like, people should know that you did that with me, that say, oh, your life is so perfect. And she's like, it's not. And she's like, I have areas that I'm weak too, just like everybody else. And she goes, that you helped me be as strong in that area as I am in these other areas. She's like, that's what I think is so valuable about what your work is. And I was like, first of all, I was crying, like teared up. And just that she had the kind of breakthrough she did today was really powerful, because that's really what I strive for. It's not about, okay, I want to make everybody into a boss and a peak performance champion, and I want you all to be champions. First of all, the champion system it's an 8-pillar system. It's an acronym. So those 8 letters in the word actually represent the 8 pillars that make people champion their lives, that make people champions of their own lives, I should say. And it's not because if you do these things great, you're a champion. It's like, hey, if you conquer your barriers in specific areas, even though you have no barriers in these other areas and you're an ass kicker, like if we can get you flowing like that, your energy flowing like that all across the board, that achieves balance. And when you have more balance, you have more energy. When you have more energy, you have more creativity. You know this, you're a writer, you're a creator. When you have more creative energy and you're creating, you're in this like manifestation mode and you can champion anything. It's like, fuck the world and the bullshit that is trying to tell me. I am going to make it through this, period. And that's what I live in commitment to helping these people unearth within themselves through their very own resources. It's not like, you know, I'm like not giving magic potions out here. And to be honest with you, it's not revelational shit. It's just I'm committed to people, and I am so committed. I think that it comes in when you're a coach for people, you stand for your own integrity so hardcore that people, it's like infectious. And when they see that you have a commitment level to them, they start to feel that commitment level for themselves, and they start to achieve and believe, just like what my training coach did for me in my fitness career, because I really never thought that I could do what I did.
It's so interesting how usually the toughest battles we fight in our own lives are the battles we fight with ourselves.
So true.
You also wrote a book. Can you tell us a little bit about this book?
Actually, I've written a few, 3 poetry books, and I have a trilogy of 3 self-help books coming out. Self-help, self-empowerment, whatever. I don't know what they're calling it these days. I think publishers call it self-help. To me,
personal development.
Personal development. There you go. It's a personal development book. So it's going through my publishing company, On the Marq Unedited, which is also the name of my peak performance company, and it's also my clothing line. So I have that brand, On the Marq Unedited. Just we really want to roll out things that empower people. That's what it is, about living your life on the mark. It's like, fill your space up in your way. It's your fucking space. Do it your way, in your time, and the way that you want to do it. Leave your mark. Be on the mark.
Yeah.
Unedited is like, hey, guess what? You're going to fuck up along the way. Own that shit, because guess what? Your mistakes are assets, and they're also the one thing that nobody ever wants to fucking take away from you. So like, own it. Turn it into capital. And I actually did an audio version of the book, and the book is actually called Unfinding Unhappiness and Unhealthiness, a champion system for maximizing balance and minimizing assholes. And it literally does that. Like I said before, when you use the champion system and you employ the tools and the instructions and the support that I provide through each of the 8 pillars, I have specific modules for each pillar. And when you're able to employ them in your life and bring it across the board and achieve balance, you really do. You increase your energy. And as you're increasing your energy and you have greater balance, you'll find that assholes are not attracted to you, because assholes are at this whole asshole polarity versus like there's the nice, super overzealously nice people. And then there's the asshole people. And then there's this place right in between where the creative people, I call it the happy genius space. And where happy geniuses is where there's the most balance, the most creative energy, the most self-awareness of power, like your power, like where you own your power and you invest it, versus just like, oh, I don't even know why did that person do that to me? And like, we're giving up our power left and right. And we're attracting people who affirm that, hey, she doesn't really care about her power. She doesn't know how to handle her power. So let me go over and take it. We attract people and situations as a result that are like super assholey for our journey if we're not paying attention to our journey. But when you balance, you pay attention to your journey, and assholes don't want to be around you because then they're reminded that they're not.
Yeah, and it's like, if we don't learn the lesson, the same issues are going to keep coming up in our lives. Mm-hmm. If we don't take that lesson, we're going to have to keep going through that same kind of, you know, pain or heartache until we take the lesson and evolve from it. So it's funny how the universe has a way of like putting things right in front of us and saying like, hey, like, are you noticing? Are you taking note of this? Because if not, it's gonna keep coming back. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is energetically, like, you are gonna attract assholes if you're at that asshole vibration. If you're at the happy genius vibration, you're gonna attract the happy genius people. If we are so rooted in our vulnerability and our powerlessness, then we're gonna keep attracting people who want to reaffirm that we are powerless and vulnerable. And as soon as we step into our power, we attract the people who reaffirm how powerful we really are and who want to champion our journey as champions.
I love the way you stated that. Very beautifully stated. It is so true. I totally concur 100% with everything you just said. So I don't even have anything to add to that. It was so flawlessly stated.
Oh, thank you, Nita. Well, I'm so grateful you were able to join us today. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your crazy, hectic schedule to come chat. So please let us know where we can find you, where we can find your book, where we can find your company, or all your books, actually, because I know there's several. And all the links will be below. But why don't you tell us now where we can find you?
The easiest place to find me is on Instagram or Facebook. Honestly, like I attend to all my DMs. And if I take a minute to get around to them, I always get back to people no matter what. I might not do it right away, but I always will. So you can find me on Facebook, Nita Marquez, or on Instagram, just at FitNita. I'm also on LinkedIn, of course. And then my website, of course, you can find me at nitamarquez.com. And that's where you'll find more information about the book, because that particular book really is more, like you said, on the personal development side of things. So it is more an extension of my peak performance coaching. And it allows me to be able to share with people my system. And if they're interested in learning more, they can always reach out to me. I do send out a newsletter through the page, through my webpage as well. But I do send out some valuable information to support people through my website. But I'm always doing lives and stuff on Instagram and Facebook. So, I mean, if you're on those platforms, please feel free to DM me.
Well, thank you so much, Nita. So everyone, we will have the links below. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope that you decide to do something that you never thought you would do, and leave a message in the comments of what it is that you're going to do or you did do, where it led you, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks so much, and have a great day.